good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's weekly energy boost. My name is Elisheva, and I'm here this Monday morning with David.
Good morning.
And we are here to share with you how to use this week's opportunities to transform pain, whether it's pain from the past, the present, or even fear of future pain. The Weekly Energy Boost is a show we do every week. It's available on all the places that you find your podcasts. And we do our best to present to you the most powerful and most practical advice for the coming 7 days that you can then take into your life. It's as though we're giving you a weather forecast and you learn from the effects of the weather, and you can use that again, going forward into any situation, not only this week. So we're coming out of a week we're still in the week of Passover, Easter. A lot of people are feeling pain over how they can't do their normal celebrations, their normal interactions with people. We've been sharing over the last few weeks, since most of the world is in some sort of lockdown. We've been trying to also address the current state of the world, but it's really appropriate that people are feeling the lack and the lack of normalcy, the lack of connection, and the pain that it brings up, whether it's sadness or fear. Some people are falling to patterns of depression, and this week really provides us the opportunity to not run, not deny or numb the pain, but to feel it, to use it for good, and to step out of it and create new patterns.
And there are a lot of people who are also thriving during this time, right? So we know, we have the assumption, and we do hear that a lot of people are going through a very difficult time, and there are people who are thriving. There are people who have prepared for scenarios like this. There are people who adapt very quickly and easily to painful situations, and they're doing something about it, right? Whether they're spiritual or not, they're doing something about how to step outside of their pain and to create blessings and miracles from it. So just want to be able to acknowledge that and balance it out, because if we're talking about our audience, which our audience has been growing, especially during this time, I think more people are watching. I think just last week on Facebook alone, we had over 20,000 people tune in to what we're sharing. Our audience is broad, and many of you are going through a tough time, and many of you are not. But we want to share tools that will be able to appeal to everybody, to our entire audience.
Well, I think when I have to talk about the concept of pain from a Kabbalistic point of view, we talk about it in depth in the Kabbalah 2 course. There's certain people that don't even relate. Like, you talk about pain and they say, well, I'm not in pain. I don't feel pain. My life isn't painful. And I end up having a conversation with those people, something along the lines of, you just don't call it pain, or you manage to react so quickly to it that you don't ever get to even sit in it, right? So somebody hurts you, let's say as an example, somebody offends you, and you're so quick to retaliate or defend or judge or justify that I'm talking to someone out there. I'm having this imaginary conversation with a student in a class, but it's like we've come to condition ourselves to be so resistant to pain that the word doesn't even resonate with some people. So we want to define pain as not ow, necessarily, although that is one kind of pain, and we'll talk about the different kinds of pain that a person can experience. But it's really anytime anybody, I think for each person who's listening, now you have to think of what's your catchphrase. When your buttons get pushed, when someone upsets you, when you're upset, that's a form of pain. When you're angry, that's a form of pain. When you feel guilt, that's a form of pain. When you're offended, I don't know, I made a whole list of what are the words?
Types of pain.
No, people don't say pain, they say upset, irritated, sad, but all of them really fall into the category Kabbalistically of pain. And so we want to understand there's got to be a purpose for that. And I think we've talked about the purpose of pain in previous shows, but today we really want to get to the understanding of how to use it and how to move past it. And I think that the reason I wanted to start with that idea of people not even recognizing when they're in pain, and we're not talking about physical pain, right? We're talking about emotional pain, psychological pain, spiritual pain, is that in order for us to not repeat the pain, we have to embrace it. We can't run, numb, react to it.
Let's break down the definition Kabbalistically of pain. Kabbalah explains there's really only two modes. There's pain and there's pleasure. So pain is the absence of pleasure, or what we call the absence of the light of the Creator. We are vessels that receive, and then there's one source of energy. It's called the light of the Creator. So it doesn't matter how you get this energy. It can be from drinking a bottle of water, a kiss, drugs. It can be from anything that gives you pleasure. It's all coming from the same source. So there aren't different sources of energy. It's the same source called the light of the Creator. The problem is that people can't hold on to that energy. So we're all very good at drawing energy for temporary moments of time. We can feel good for temporary moments of time. But we all struggle with, well, how do I make this energy last? How do I make the fulfillment last? How do I make the relationship last? How do I make the love last? How do I make the financial abundance last? Because we're all afraid that this energy is just going to go away at some point. So let's be clear. The energy is the same energy. All of it is the same, coming from the same source.
The same way that electricity fuels our toasters, our microwaves, our bedside lamp. It's the same force, but it expresses itself in a car or a billboard or a movie theater or you name it.
And I'm happy you brought that example, because how does energy express itself? It only depends on the vessel or the receptacle. And this is something so powerful that Kabbalah talks about, is that the light of the Creator never changes. So if I'm in a good mood one day and a bad mood an hour later, nothing changed from the light of the Creator's point of view. It's just something changed inside of me. I went from being a toaster, right? I changed from a toaster to maybe, a
taser.
A taser, yeah. Or like, it's the receptacle that changes the revelation of the light of the Creator. So Kabbalah gives us the secrets of what I need to do with my vessel so that the light can be activated again. Hence, I will feel the fulfillment. So whenever I feel pain, it means that I've misunderstood, or I haven't dialed in my relationship with the light of the Creator. That's all it means. All pain means is that I need to do something more to change my vessel to allow that energy in. It has nothing to do with the people around us. It has nothing to do with the circumstances. It has nothing to do with anything external. There's just a moment in time that I'm being asked from the universe to dial in and transform something about my receptacle, my vessel, to change again from a toaster. I don't know what to compare the toaster to, but the toaster is one kind of vessel. It draws one kind of energy, but you want more energy. You want a different energy. I think the best way of looking at it is 5-watt bulb to a 1,000-watt bulb. I want 1,000 watts of energy. I feel pain. Well, you got to do something to change yourself from a 5-watt bulb to a 1,000-watt bulb. 5-watt bulb can't hold 1,000 watts of energy. So don't be frustrated at everyone in the world who's not giving you 1,000 watts. You have nowhere to hold that energy.
And I think that brings up a really big part of what we repeat almost incessantly on this show, is that's why pausing is so important. Because if you don't take time to pause when the button gets pushed or when the compulsion to move from toaster to taser happens, you do it mindlessly. And there's only, like David said, there's only two modes. Either you're conscious or you're unconscious. And there isn't an in-between. I'm not slightly conscious. It's either light or absence of light. And so that pausing allows us to say, what do I want to do right now? Do I want to be in that mode where I can hurt, where I can say things I don't mean, where I can create damage that I'm going to have to fix later? Or do I want to continue to be a conduit for the light? Do I want to continue to stay plugged in?
Someone wrote, so wait, people can't change my mood? Well, I mean, we talk about how being maybe in a negative environment can change your mood or change your energy and cause you pain. Well, we know that. You can be in an argument with or a discussion with someone and they say something that's hurtful and all of a sudden you're in pain. So it's logical to think that this person just caused you pain. Actually, if you break it down, it happens so fast that you think it's them causing you pain.
Right.
But actually what's happening is they've been directed to do something based on your soul's DNA. And in fact, your soul actually wrote this script from the moment it came to this world. It basically said that on Monday morning, April 13th, at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time, there's going to be a person who is going to be directed from the light of the Creator to say something hurtful to you. they're not causing you pain. They're doing something, and they're giving you an opportunity to make a decision. It's very quick. It happens so quick that we don't even know we have this opportunity. Mm-hmm. The opportunity is your free will of how you react or interpret what they say. And then if you react to what they say, then you feel pain. Because what you've done now is you've changed your vessel. So let's be clear. No one's causing you pain. They're throwing you a softball, and you're deciding to hit the ball or not hit the ball. It's your choice ultimately that makes you feel a certain way. So I hope that's clear.
Well, I think that another way to look at it is there's a difference between what is actually happening and what your ego wants you to focus on.
Right.
And we've been talking again over these last few weeks about these two forces within us. If this is the first time you're tuning in, go back to last week's show, and then come back to minute 12 of today's show. The ego is there to challenge us. So, the guy throws the softball at you, and your ego says, he's trying to hurt you. He's picking that scar that you have from 20 years ago from that last friend that hurt you. Your ego is telling you to focus on one thing, and then you have the voice of your soul, your true voice, telling you, just hit the ball, right? But this is a game. This is the game of life. Swing and see what happens. And recognizing that there are those two broadcasts, and doing as much as you can to stay tuned into the light, K-light, the broadcast of K-light, rather than chaos. You realize that everything is a choice. And the more I choose to listen to the soul, the greater or the more elevated perspective I'm going to get. So you may say, yes, you know what he said was hurtful, but I can choose to let it destroy my day, or I can choose to let it roll off me. And later tonight, before I go to bed, I'm going to sit and think about what he said and look for the 1% of truth in that hurtful statement so that I can grow from it. But I want to point out two things about that, what I just said. Two or number one comes first. Number one is trying to dissect what happened while the guy is in front of me waiting for the ball it's not going to be a good time. It's rarely in the midst of the opportunity to react. It's very difficult to both assess and serve, right? If it's a tennis game, you're not going to be able to hit while you're thinking, the radius of the shot and the angle. No, do that at night when you go to sleep, and then before you go to sleep. The second thing is, it's never about the other person. And I think that that's one of the other things that the ego gets us locked into is, who do they think they are? They're trying to control me. They're trying to manipulate me. We get into a whole movie about what's wrong with them, rather than taking the opportunity for me, because that's what the universe intended it to be.
I want to take that even deeper now. I know several of our senior teachers, we didn't get to do this, but we're doing some version of this all the time, went and started to learn and check in what other modalities, other spiritual paths, other taking workshops and whatnot. And one of the interesting things from a 3-day workshop they did is they shared with us an interesting concept. I'm not saying we apply this Kabbalistically, but I think it's very powerful. It's a little controversial, I'm going to say also. But people who have trauma, they would bring them up on front of the stage, and they would say, well, what happened to you? It's like, well, my mom would abuse me and verbally. She would say this, and she hurt me, and she caused me pain, and she made me feel unloved. And so the guy would say, no, that's not what happened. Your mom said
some things,
said words to you.
And you made that story up.
Yeah, and then you came up with a story of what it did to you. And I mean, this is controversial. And again, I'm not saying we agree to this, right? But
this is not Kabbalistic.
This is not Kabbalistic, but I'm going to tell you approach. There is something there's a diamond I want to take from this. But then it went even more extreme, right? Someone comes up and says, well, I was physically abused, and I was tortured and mind controlled and all these things growing up. And so the instructor says,
Bodies touched.
Bodies touched.
And you made up that story.
And you made a story that you're holding on for your entire life, and now you're upset and you're holding on to anger your entire life. And obviously this person would get even more upset, and the audience would get upset. Like, you're minimizing this, this person got sexually abused, physically abused, you're minimizing it. You're minimizing it to nothing. So the instructor would say, what I'm trying to do is minimize the story. We all have these stories that we carry around, and the story becomes part of the baggage of every conversation. I'm talking to two business partners the other day about their business plan, and they're just fighting on the phone. And I'm like, guys, what's happening here is the reason why your business plan isn't taking off is because you have baggage and PTSD that you're bringing in from other things, and it's not allowing you to take the business off. You have to stop with the story, because you both are carrying the story with you. So I want to ask the audience, what's the story that you keep telling yourself?
A painful story.
A painful story. Something
Right.
painful happened to you in the past. And it's created this dialogue in your head with this identity of, I am a victim of X, Y, Z. I went through this. And this story, even though there is a power to the story, the positive aspect of the story, it's also limiting us in many, many ways. And it's not about minimizing it, but it's about letting it, taking its power over you away, taking your power back from the story. Were you abused, in the relationship? Were you cheated on? My spouse cheated on me, they say, right? Someone says,
yeah.
What do you mean they cheated on me? It's horrible. It's this, it's that. It's like, wait, hold on one second. What do you mean? What really did happen?
Right.
If you're going to tell yourself this horrible story, you're going to carry it, and you're going to be resentful to men for the rest of your life.
Right. And that particular example, I'm reminded of a story of somebody who, it sounds so cinematic, such a Hollywood setup, but I remember hearing about somebody who she was driving in her car with her kids, and they turned and saw the car next to them, the dad kissing someone else. Like, imagine that's a Hollywood script if I ever saw one. So, as Kabbalah teachers, we often, consult with one another. And so this person's teacher came to me and said, how would you help this person? What would you share with them? And as a mother and as a wife, my thought was, does this woman want to be betrayed and not know?
Right.
Or does she want to know and build a life that is healthy and honest and truthful and with integrity?
Right.
And I think in the beginning, her answer was, no, she'd rather not know. But then after sitting in it a little bit, she realized she'd rather be alone and in a healthy, or alone and not in an unhealthy relationship. But the reason I'm sharing it is because that the moment or the scenario obviously is very painful. I mean, I don't want to sound like I felt her pain. And I think that's a big part of what we want to share with everyone today, is that there is value in feeling the pain. And we need to talk about that. But holding on to, the ego says, well, they hurt me, they betrayed me, I feel humiliation. The soul says, I was telling myself a story about who this person was. Now I know the truth, and now I can move on. And the soul wants us to say, yes, ouch, and to take the value from the lesson, but not to hold on to the flag of, I was betrayed, I was victimized, I was cheated on, and use that to then filter and color all the other scenarios that are going to happen, like these people, the business partners that you're sharing. It's the feeling is feeling the pain has its power and its importance. And maybe we should talk about that before we move on.
So I wanted to just put that in order, because you said something powerful. A situation occurs that makes you feel a lack of pleasure, and we know that this situation has a spiritual message. There's an intelligence now behind the pain. And what you just brought up is step one is to feel the pain.
Right.
It's important to feel the pain, because if you suppress it or you minimize it, then you're going out of order.
And you have a right to feel the pain, right? I think some people say, well, it's not practical, it's not important, I'm not important, I don't need to vocalize myself. Feeling your feelings, you have a right to feel. The question is, what do you do with those feelings? And that's what we want to talk about now.
Right. And feeling it is a choice that you should make, as opposed to having the pain feel you. So if I'm sad about something, what I'll tell myself is, okay, now I'm going to choose to be sad. So I'm choosing it. I'm going to take control over it, and then I'm going to choose to do it, as opposed to just letting yourself feel it because external situations are causing you to feel pain. So I really want to make that clear. Feeling the pain, you should actually give yourself a mantra. You should tell yourself, I'm going to choose to feel my pain.
When I started studying Kabbalah, my teacher told me something that at the time I think was very dangerous, but now 30 years later, I appreciate it. She told me, if you want to be depressed, you want to curl up in bed with a container of Ben and Jerry's, by all means do it. as long as no one else is making you feel like you need to do it.
Beautiful.
Like you get to pick a day.
You got to choose it.
Right. You get to pick the day on which you want your pity party, but no one else can put you there. That's the rule. So you feel it accumulating. And by the way, I used to do this. This is a very long time ago. I used to decide, you know what? It's time to watch a movie and cry. And I would just let myself feel the sadness and get emotional and cry for another 2 hours later and then move along. And I felt so much, choosing it, electing, dedicating time to it is so much more, I want to use the word powerful, but that's not even it. It's really impactful, right? You actually get to do something with that negative feeling rather than just let it own you.
Because what happens when you choose to feel the pain? Let's share that. What if I choose now to feel 30 minutes feeling bad, feeling broken, feeling humiliated, feeling humble, but I'm choosing it, which is we're saying is very positive. What happens after that? What can we tell our audience Kabbalistically happens? We know that it's positive, but let's break it down because I think that's where Kabbalah differentiates itself, is it just goes down to the details of the energy.
And by the way, if there is someone that you know who's going through pain, who doesn't see a way out of their pain, you can also pause now and share the show with them. Hopefully, even if they listen to just 2 minutes of it, they'll get something that will help them to create a shift in their lives. I think it's important to understand that pain serves a purpose, right? That our script, our life script, as David said, is written out. There's infinite plot twists and possibilities, but the pain, according to Kabbalah, is there to do what we call in Kabbalah cleanse. And I think that that's also being willing to embrace it means understanding that it's not only an intellectual or mental growth that we're looking for. Over the lifetimes that we come to the physical reality, every lifetime with it comes its own reactive behavior, its own tikkun, its own soul's correction process. And in the times that we're unconscious, we accumulate almost like layers or coverings over the light of our soul.
These are called shells. We call them in Kabbalah too. We talk about it. They're spiritual shells. They're kind of like a peel around the fruit. You may think they're negative, but really they're just concealing light, concealing energy that you couldn't handle, that was too much for you. They're blessings. They're sparks of light that you need, but evidently you were abusing or misusing. So when the pain comes and we accept the pain, what it does is it cleanses those shells and it releases sparks of energy. It releases ideas and thoughts and steps of what to do next. That's why when you don't react and you choose to feel the pain, you open up a portal by which of how to solve that pain and ideas of what to do. And then the light is revealed to you.
Right. When we teach these concepts to kids, the visual that we give them is we take like a table lamp and we say, let's say you get angry, you put another towel over the lamp. You throw a tantrum is the same thing. You get, you're jealous, you put another towel over the lamp. You accuse your little sister of something, you put another, and over again, we put all these towels over the lamp. Can you see the light of the lamp anymore? No. But is the lamp still on? Right. Yes. And that's really the key to remember, is that light, the light of our soul, isn't diminished. What diminishes our perception of the light, or what diminishes our ability to hear the calling of our soul, is that inundation of shells, of layers, or of peels that causes a interference, I guess is the right way to say it. And so every time we go through a painful situation, and that's again the value in feeling the pain, sitting in it proactively, is that every painful situation gives you the opportunity to remove one of those layers. And so,
what a powerful visual! As long as you feel the pain with some form of happiness, but you're choosing it, you're removing another layer that you've put over that lamp. So it's actually exciting. It's actually it's a way to reveal what the next step in your life needs to be, and what the next miracle and the next blessing is.
And knowing that, I think as a young person, knowing that light is never diminished, right? That light stays on as long as I'm on this planet. That my lamp, my heart light shines
for eternity. It's never changed.
It doesn't. Right. Nothing can affect that. What does affect my perception of it and my ability to project it outwards is my reactive behavior.
So what happens after step one? So step one was feel the pain. We choose to feel it. We break open the shells, and then there's, the sparks of light are being revealed. What's step two? What's the practical step two for people?
Well, to me, it's being motivated by the pain, using the pain as a springboard. And that's, to me, I think it's important to differentiate the different kinds of pain. We said that we're not talking about physical pain right now, although physical pain does have a piece in the conversation. We're talking more about the internal pain, right? The intangible, emotional, again, or it can even be spiritual pain. There's a difference between the pain of the ego and the pain of the soul, right? And when you choose to be proactively sit in that pain, really what you're recognizing is some sort of missed opportunity. And when you're in that place of pain and you're feeling it and you feel like, okay, now it's time to come out of it, the question is, what missed opportunity can I vow never to miss again, right? Usually the pain comes from a missed opportunity, and using it to plot my triumphant return is really a powerful way to use it as a tool for growth.
This week, whatever story we've ascribed to ourselves is going to come up. And these stories are actually dictating the types of challenges that will come into our lives. And if you're finding that you're getting the same challenges over and over again, and you're getting the same negative interactions with people, or the same negative thoughts, or the same negative emotions, it's because there is a story you're holding on to. What are some examples of stories that we can...
It's so funny. I was just going to say, let's give some tangible examples.
Let's give some tangible examples.
Okay, so let's say people are talking about you, or they're criticizing you, they're judging you, and maybe they're right? Yeah. They're not accusing you of something you didn't do. They're pointing out some sort of shortcomings, failures. I think failure is a big one. Feeling like you made a mistake, or you didn't give your all, etc. The pain that comes from taking those things in, or we say taking things personally, can be really difficult to rebound from, right? Because you sort of feel disempowered, impotent, like, oh, I gave my best and it wasn't good enough. Why bother? In the midst of that pain, right? And it's okay to feel it. I think it's important to remind, we're not saying go brush past the pain and what are you going to do differently next time? No, embrace knowing that in those moments where you feel the pain, and it may feel very dark, Kabbalah teaches the light force of the Creator is closest to us in those moments.
So what can be an example of that person's story? So we've already told them what to do about it.
Okay.
So what are some examples of a person is being, you said, spoken about in a negative way?
Yeah.
Okay, and it bothers me. It hurts me. Well, why is it hurting me? What's going on here? What's the story that I've been living my whole life that now I'm attracting people who aren't respecting me or respecting my time or energy or whatever it is, and they're saying negative things about me?
Maybe there was at some point this recognition of inadequacies or lack of ability, and I've been trying to overcompensate and be
beautiful,
arrogant, shining star, number one in the office, and now I'm being called out on it.
Beautiful. Maybe I recognize something inadequate about me since I was a kid. Maybe people don't know about it. It's a vulnerable, sore spot for me. So I've told
middle child syndrome. My older brother is much better at me than everything, and therefore now I'm the middle child at the company again.
That's my story. I am a middle child. So what happens is every time someone says something that resembles or mirrors what I feel about myself, I'm being triggered by it. We're only triggered by what we already feel about ourselves, which is really interesting. If something's triggering you, it's because you actually feel that way about yourself. And you've decided this is who you are because you decide who you are.
And all that overcompensation and excelling in all these other areas is just built like this fortress around the real issue. And somebody is like, poked a hole in your fortress, and that's really what hurts.
Exactly.
That shell, that fortress, you can actually think about it that way. That you've done everything to make sure that nobody touches the wound, and here now somebody's coming and touching the wound. giving you the opportunity to deal with
Beautiful
it.
example. What are some more examples? And people can also write in the chat some examples they think of stories that they've told themselves.
Well, I think that for a lot of people, there is also the shame and the guilt pain receptor,
Talk about it.
right? I ruined a relationship. Maybe the person is the cheater rather than the cheated on. Maybe the person got out of a relationship and now looks back and says that he was the one or she was the one, but now it's too late. They're with someone else. The beating ourselves up over something I did or didn't do.
Okay, so what's the story there?
There's so many possibilities, but I would say, I don't know. Which one should we choose? There's so many.
Well, I have some right here,
Okay,
some
good.
examples right here. Let's say you're getting angry all the time at people, at situations. You disagree all the time. You find that it's frustrating you. So this kind of anger comes from the feelings that you deserve and you know better. So you've been telling yourself this story your whole life that you deserve, you know better than other people, maybe because you've had ideas in the past and nobody listened to it and it didn't work out. And then you're like, you see, I told you, I know better. So my story is, I know better. I know better than you. I know better about, what are the hot topics today? I know better about vaccines. I know better about politics. I know better about the health and healing and how the body works. I know better about diets. So when people are talking about diets that you don't agree with, people are talking about opinions about politics or vaccines or whatever that you don't agree with, you're getting angry. You're getting angry. You're getting upset. You're getting emotional about it because you've created a story that you know better. Here's another one.
By the way, that'll push a person out of a relationship with you too.
What do you mean?
I know better that if you're in a relationship with someone or you think you know better, that's a very hard person to be in a relationship with. Where is the equality? Where is the openness to growth and change and
so what should
accountability?
It look like? What should it look like? What it should? Someone just texted me that I could use their story that we spoke about. Two couples, a couple.
Not two couples.
A couple.
Two people.
A couple. I'm going to give a variation of the story, but they both have been hurt by each other in the relationship in some way, as all relationships that happens to. So every conversation they have with each other, they're already bringing in.
They're already on the defense.
They're already on the defense. They're already bringing in the sarcasm
right.
of what happened before. The expectation that this person is small-minded, or this expectation that this person doesn't listen to me, so what's the point anyway, right? So it's a story that we tell ourselves, nobody listens to me. I have the nobody listens to me story. So everywhere I go, I already know that nobody listens to me. That's the starting point of every conversation. That's the starting point of every business. A person can have the story of business. It's hard to make money. That's your story. It's hard to make money. So you're starting a business already with the story of it's hard to make money. So the only people who come to your movie are the people who are going to make it hard for you to make money. It's the actors in your life are all actors that you chose based on your script. Whatever your story is, that if you think people are disappointing you, people always disappoint me. You'll marry someone who is a disappointer. You will have friends who are disappointers. The TV shows will disappoint you. You'll watch a TV show like that was disappointing. It's like Netflix's algorithm will show you disappointing shows.
And you'll get ads in your Facebook, disappointed with love again? Join this app.
Based on your consciousness, you affect the algorithm of technology on the outside world.
I think that that's one of the unique opportunities that this time period we're in, mid-April 2020 is giving us as well, is that there is a lot. The one I wanted to bring up next was fear.
Okay.
Right. Maybe the right way to say it is waiting for the other shoe to drop. Right. Last relationship was awful. Waiting for this one to be awful too. Yep. Last job was a failure. Waiting for this one to fail as well. I think even in friendships, I've worked with students over the years where we've sort of charted out their habits with their friends and how it starts out as amazing and then I start to make the other person feel smaller than me or less than or little, and how that, breakup happens. Recognizing that waiting for the other shoe to drop or waiting for my pattern to repeat actually accelerates the repetition of that pattern and prevents me from dealing with it. Now, why do I say I've sat with people and gone over the pattern? Because the pattern is not the result of me making the other, in that example, let's say me making my friend feel less than or stupid or whatever. It's something that happens even before I get into the relationship with them, before I get into the friendship with them. So part of the value in sitting with the pain, feeling what it feels like to be the middle child and embracing why my soul might have chosen that, feeling what it feels like to be the, I don't know, stay-at-home mom with no other definition of myself other than the people in my life and how they define me. Whether it's me, being the serial dater, not ever being able to get into a serious relationship. Why did I choose that? And how might that opportunity for my soul be there for me to grow? Not to let it own me, but to let me step up on it and shine the best of me. I think that's one of the things that this time is asking us to do, right? Everybody's sort of thinking in their mind, I can't wait for things to go back to normal, right? Raise your hand if you had that thought in the last 2 weeks. I can't wait for life to go back to normal.
Just raise your hand, put yes in the comments.
or call out someone who said that to you, right? It's that the idea of what does it mean to go back to normal, right? And I think that's one of the dangerous things about what, if the universe is asking us to make changes, wanting to go back to normal means reverting back to who we were before those changes. This is an important time for all of us to decide what about my nature needs to change. Not the positive things, of course. If you're a good-natured person, do not say, well, now I need to be meaner to people, right? That you may decide that you need to have healthier boundaries with people, but make sure that you are sitting down with yourself, having a good talking to with yourself in the next 7, I would say you get 9 days to do it this week. Because what's interesting now we spoke last week that we're now entering this time period in the Kabbalistic calendar called the Omer. The week, we're now in the middle of the first week, but in the second week, it's time for some tough love with the self alone, right? Not with other people, and you have to be careful about that. So let's say starting Thursday night, right? I think it's Thursday night. Starting Thursday night, we want to focus on where we need, not just start Thursday night, but from today until next Thursday night, thinking about the things in our nature that we need to rise above, where we need to be better, and where we cannot afford to go back to normal. There are parts of our normal that need to change drastically.
And if you want to know specifically what that can be, it's going to revolve around some form of limited belief that is simply not accurate. Something just came to my mind. Like, people say, for example, there's a universal limited belief. Being a parent, and we both feel this way, being a parent is hard. Everybody says this. Now, is that the way it has to be? If I believe that being a parent is hard, I'm telling my kids to make it hard.
Are you giving me an opportunity?
I'm not telling you.
You're giving me an opportunity to plug my parenting course that starts next week.
Oh, you have a parenting course this week? Okay, so that's
next week.
next week. That is a nice plug. but I just realized it. It's a universal one. We all believe it. Being a parent's hard. But even this is inaccurate, because as soon as I believe being a parent is hard, I attract the reality in the movie that makes it challenging and difficult. Instead, you just have the belief system that maybe being a parent is very easy. In fact, the children are very well behaved. Children can be you have to shift your mindset into what should be. And then, of course, when challenges and things come, you're always putting those situations into your mindset, as opposed to your mindset kind of validating and dictating your life. So any negative belief you have, limitation you have, that's what's attracting the pain. And when Elisheva says to feel the pain and to sit in the pain, what you want to do in those moments is to identify and acknowledge what's the limited belief here that just keeps attracting the pain? Why do I keep getting this rejection from the universe? And as soon as you can identify it, that's how you remove it.
Right. Somebody asked earlier about, ruining a relationship and feeling like we don't deserve love or something like that. Look at that belief system for a second. And that to me is one of the not funnier ones, but peculiar, let's say, ones. When a person decides that they get to decide what they deserve or they don't deserve, right? I call it a God complex. I'm not sure what it's called psychologically, but there are people who prevent themselves from receiving more in life because they decide they don't deserve it.
Right.
That belief system, and I imagine that we all have it on some level regarding something. I don't deserve to be extremely happy. I don't deserve a loving partner. I don't deserve to be a billionaire. Right? There's always some...
Or it's not even it's too hard. It's hard. It's hard to make money. So it's always going to be hard for you to make money. It's so simple. It's just a limited way of looking at it because maybe evidence has told you that or statistics have told you that.
For all of us out there, I guess nobody is exempt anymore. We're more in the same boat today than we were a month ago. And that's something to me, that's a sign to me that we're doing something right, is that the universe, the entire world has more in common with one another than we did before. And the more that we realize that we have more in common than we don't, that's another thing that can speed up the process. But I want to make something clear. I mentioned before that we need to figure out what needs to change so that we don't go back to the old normal. Part of recognizing what needs to change, is that we use what's good about us more. That we lead with our positive qualities, our positive attributes more. And so recognizing what needs to change doesn't only involve removing the negative or shifting the negative. It also means enhancing and strengthening and taking advantage of the positive.
And I love that. And I'm going to add to that because something I've noticed, people who get stuck a lot are people who try to do things that are not in their lane. There are things that we're good at, and we need to focus on those things and accentuating those things and manifesting those things. If you're not good at something, and it's not your thing, it's not your essence, it's not why it's not why you came to this world, but you're trying to fit yourself into it. I don't know, maybe because you're afraid, or you think there's a missed opportunity at hand, or you're trying to impress someone.
Or you're competing.
Or you're trying to compete. Stay in your lane and do what you're good at. Be authentic to what you're good at. Because when you start getting in everyone's business and trying to be 18 different people, and in your core you're not. I'm talking about the things you know.
Can I give an personal example?
Please, yeah.
So many years ago when I met my now husband, one of the things that impressed me so much about him, we met as Kabbalah teachers, right?
Yes.
So one of the things that impressed me so much about him is how organized he is, right?
He is very
He
organized.
is an Excel master. His email inbox has 900 folders, and he sorts everything. And you say to him, "Oh, do you remember how much the movie tickets cost in 1972?" He has a file where it's written down.
That's
he is
great.
just so. I realized in order to become, listen to the limitation, that in order to be as good of a teacher as him, I need to get organized. And I spent hours, days, weeks trying to organize my inbox and get better at Excel. For the record, when I took computers in college, I got a C- because they were trying to teach us back in the early 90s Excel and about the, what was the internet called before? The World Wide Web. And I just thought, this is nonsense and I can't compute. So anyway, I spent really weeks and maybe even months, again, not talking to students, not teaching classes, not doing my strong suit, trying to be more like him. And I failed miserably. I sent emails to wrong people. I did everything wrong in the book you could do with a computer, to the point of utter humiliation. And then I realized, you know what? I'm going to ask him to do all these things. I'm going to let him be the superstar he is, and I'm going to be my own superstar not try and be the superstar he is. And I think that a lot of us look at the people that we admire and we try to do what they do.
Exactly.
If there is someone in your life that you admire, don't try to do what they do. Try to be great like them in the way that you can be great. And the suffering, and by the way, I felt like an idiot, right? There was pain there.
Right.
I felt like this is a huge inadequacy of mine, and this is the missing puzzle for me.
This is where a lot of pain comes from.
This was the missing piece for me. And once after quite many months, I let it go. I dropped it. And so much blessing came as a result. When I was able to, actually, I want to say it the other way. When I was able to bless myself for the good that I can do, for my own greatness, for my own positive attributes, and not try to be someone I'm not, everything shifted for me.
So if you're wondering why sometimes painful situations come, it's because you're being told that you're driving outside your lane. Kind of like those sensors now that the cars have, that as soon as I start driving out of the lane, it starts to beep. And it's telling me, listen, you're leaving the lane. Maybe the car thinks I'm falling asleep. Maybe the car thinks that I'm just being reckless or I'm not paying attention to the road.
You're reaching for the sushi on the floor.
Yeah, you're reaching. Yeah, I'm driving with one knee. So this can be a reason pain is coming. You just need to ask yourself the question, am I trying to be too many things? Am I trying to be someone I'm not? Am I trying to escape from myself? It's just a question. We have to ask that question. We have to ask that question. I don't know if that's the answer all the time, but if you're not asking the question, you're going to be driving in circles on the freeway. You're going to be driving like a maniac, and you're not going to be fulfilled. Just because you can do a lot of things doesn't mean you should do a lot of things.
Yeah. So let's stay in our lane, feel the pain, and bless our positive attributes this week. If you're looking for a way to disconnect from the negativity, detach from the Netflix, and we love Netflix, right? Nothing against Netflix.
Nothing at all.
Definitely the lifeblood of the situation we're in. I want to invite you at least to get onto Kabbalah1.com. We have our own personal coupon code that we give to our listeners, which is WEB30. So you can have a 30% discount on the cost of the course. Again, I'm sure everybody's doing the best they can, but this is something that can help you do even better with what you're doing. Be focused on the right things and not the wrong things.
I've had students say that they've gifted it to friends they thought would never like something like this. And these friends are loving it, and it's changing their life.
That's actually an awesome thing to do. Use the coupon code to gift Kabbalah One to people. I want to thank you for joining us.
What about your parenting class?
It starts next Tuesday, the 21st at 5 p.m. It's 5 weeks. It's going to be on Zoom like the rest of our lives. And I'm not going to tell you how to raise your kids, but I'm going to give you amazing, powerful Kabbalistic wisdom around what it means to be a parent, how to raise souls that make a difference in the world. And I guess depending on the group, I think it really, those kind of classes depend a lot on the group and their questions and where they're at.
Yeah,
so
that's
I'm
good.
looking forward to seeing a lot of you there. And if you're listening on the podcast, please comment, rate the podcast,
yeah.
subscribe, send the link to other people. We are growing, and it's only because of our wonderful listeners and the feedback that you give us. If you continue to post your comments, we'll answer them during the week. Have a fabulous one.
Yes.
And we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.